What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you for tuning back in to another edition of the On the Ball podcast. You already know, Kyle back with you, but we don't have Brett tonight. He should be back next week. He had to take care of something this tonight. We got Dylan back in the building. It's
Sir,
been a
yes,
while.
sir.
Been a while since Dylan's come on, but you know back, and I feel like this is the time where you kind of cook because we're right after the Super Bowl. Get a lot of the combine draft
hmm
stuff. Already know we'll get mock drafts and stuff going on here in the coming weeks. But with all that, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, hadn't really talked since, about November. So, I mean, just some quick thoughts. Good Super Bowl, good football season, good win by Philadelphia. It's been a good NBA season so far. I'm just excited. This is my favorite part, free agency, all the movement, the NFL draft. Let's get to all the good stuff. March Madness is coming up. I'm a big college basketball fan. So I'm
Mhm.
excited for all of it. It's a good, March and April are good months for me. So very excited.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you have a league like in the NFL where they don't really stop. The news continues. So we will touch on some of the stuff that we've gotten already, even with it being not necessarily free agency yet. Um, hey, what's going on, Jory? See Jory checking in, getting some article notes ready. Hey, we're happy to give you something to listen to while you are getting your notes ready. Definitely appreciate you. And we're going to touch on some NBA as well because we're coming down to the last like 20 games of the season. We have some teams that have kind of separated themselves, I would say, from being a contender. So we're kind of look at some of those teams tonight and give you our contenders and pretenders, as well as some other little news around the NBA, which we'll get started with. But so appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you get the like button. Make sure you follow or subscribe. Subscribe, obviously, if you're on YouTube. Follow if you're on Facebook or Twitch. And like I said, as you go on TikTok as well, what's going on? Feel free to join in the conversation and let's have some fun with it tonight. So let's start in the NBA. I feel like we do have to start kind of with Nico and the Dallas Mavericks because look, it's one of the wildest timelines that you'll see in the NBA. So the Dallas Mavs go from the finals last year where they lose. They're going through this season, get to the trade deadline, you trade Luca. Fine. You get Anthony Davis in return. Not a popular trade, but I guess it happened. That's all I'll say. It happened.
hmm
Anthony Davis plays his first game, looks great, goes down with an injury in the second half. Mavs fans are upset for a good reason. Luca, meanwhile, doing his thing in LA. LA now looks like a really good team with him. Dallas struggling. Then you get last night, and okay, let's back up. The 80 injury is on top of an injury to Gafford, Lively. Basically, all their big men are out right now. And then you throw AD into it. Last night, Kyrie Irving drive to the basket, goes down, grabbing his knee, which at first they said knee sprain. Obviously, they didn't know everything until they went in and actually looked at it. Torn ACL, out for the year. And then if that's not the worst of it, the Mavericks come out and say, we're raising ticket prices next year. So it's like every decision they made so far has been horrible in every way. I feel like the first thing we'll have to say is obviously speedy recovery to Kyrie Irving. Obviously, he'll probably be out until around this point next year. So next year is kind of a wash for him as well. But like I said, you haven't been on in a while. But it's just like when you look at the situation in Dallas, what do you make of it? Like, is this as poor front office management and they kind of need a clean house? Is it just a run of bad luck? Is there something? Because I will tell you that there's like a crazy conspiracy theory that is going on with the Dallas Mavericks, and I guess I'll get your thoughts on this as well. There's a conspiracy theory that Dallas is doing all this to move the team to Vegas, and this is a theory that kind of popped up like before the trade deadline. So it's almost like the
Okay.
Baltimore Indy situation: do stuff, get fans upset, and then move out of town. I know it's a lot to throw at you, but like, what are your thoughts on everything that's going on in Dallas right now?
So starting with Dallas, I mean, yeah, what to basically go off what you said, a championship caliber team last year, a team that made the NBA Finals, didn't maybe do particularly as well as maybe what they would like to, but still have a cornerstone piece in Luka Doncic. You saw that you can get something out of Kyrie and Luka. Probably just a bit away. Jason Tatum and that Jalen Brown were a good Celtics team. That Celtics team was a good core that's been together for a while now. It was their time to win, and I don't think anyone was surprised by it. But to trade Luka away, just and basically half the season after that, a trade deadline after that, and then to get a player like Anthony Davis, but for him to go down, and then now Kyrie to go down, plus all the plethora of other injuries that you have. It's just a big stroke of bad luck for this team because regardless, they had their reasonings about the Luka trade. It is what it is. However, we feel about that might be a little bit different, but they had some sort of reasoning for him. So overall, I think the trade was something we could deal with. It's not something that was forced. Maybe a bad move you look on upon down the line, but who doesn't? What GM doesn't have those sometimes? Who doesn't make those bad decisions? That's why we have the term busts and everything like that. Those GMs have to be the one to pick those players. So I wouldn't attribute it to really much the trade, but as just a stroke of bad luck. I mean, really, you can't control injuries. It's not like, outside of maybe if you clear your medical staff out, find someone who can, help them a little bit better. But other than that, injuries are injuries and you can't really control them. It sucks. It really kind of dampers what, Dallas wanted to do. And especially, all the things going around with the Luka trade and everything like that. It really puts a bad light on Dallas as a franchise overall because they're a team that, was still teetering on being a playoff team, around the ninth, eighth, 10th seed area. Really close Western Conference, though. So, 2 wins can jump you up to the 6th seed. But, it kind of is going to push them really down. And it's going to really have to be a season for, Dallas to just, let's just look at what we have for now and see what we can use and what we can lose for next season and see who we can keep and who we need to get to, kind of mesh around Anthony Davis, who will hopefully be back, by this time a little bit of the season, so you can see a little bit more him in a Dallas uniform, seeing what pieces might fit with him pretty well. But it sucks because you're not going to see Kyrie and AD on the court, so it's really kind of hard to gauge how good this combo is going to be. So Dallas is going to have to do a lot of just guessing, at least upcoming into next season on what they need to do, which sucks. You don't want to do that, especially with caliber players like that after trading away a cornerstone piece like Luka. After making the NBA Finals the year before.
Yeah, and like I agree with that. Like you kind of have to go into the off season. Unfortunately, obviously, Kyrie won't be around to start the season, but at least you can try to, do some things around AD to make the team better. Now, you did say, wait for AD to come back, and I said before, like, their big men are out. But now with the fact that Kyrie is out and AD, if he does come back, would be coming back from an injury, do you hold him out the rest of this season knowing that Kyrie's not going to play? Or do you still play AD hoping that maybe you can hold on to, maybe like a 6th seed or get into the play-in and try to win the play-in and get to the playoffs?
That's tough. I mean, if there's no chance that they can make the playoffs at all, I think you just kind of shut it down. If it gets to a point by the time AD comes back and you really have to make a strong run, kind of work AD a little bit to get there, it's not worth a play-in spot. But if the team's still pretty good, like we said, the Mavericks are what, they're 32-30 in a Western Conference where the 6th seed is 33-28. So they're not too far off of being a team that doesn't even need to be a play-in team necessarily. So I gauge it as, I would want to play AD when he comes back, and if he is healthy, I would want to play him when he comes back to still like see what he does with the pieces we have. We need to see how AD can mesh in here. We just need to get him minutes in a Dallas uniform. Just figure out what the coaches can do with him, game plan with him. Just figure out whatever you can use for this season and bring it into next season. Don't do it at the cost of hurting him, even more, and you have not having both of your stars potentially into even next season and being in a little bit more purgatory. But man, if you have an opportunity to compete, I feel like the fans would be happy with that. I feel like a lot of Dallas fans wouldn't mind, Dallas making the 7th seed or a 6th seed, having a decent series with someone, maybe upsetting with AD back in the lineup. Something to hold hopes on to. But man, Dallas is going to be hurt, if their season ended up with, Kyrie getting hurt, trading Luka away, and then AD also being out and playing only one game and then being out for the rest of the season. So,
yeah, I mean that's fair. I think. Well, if you're Nico, like you want AD to come back pretty soon, hopefully get a little bit better basketball being played. And yeah, maybe you make the play-in tournament, you make it out of the play-in tournament, and you could at least say we're a playoff team. Obviously not going to make it back to the finals, but still a playoff team. And I guess try to sell the fan base on we'll make some deals in the offseason to make the team even better next year. Which, if you're a Mavericks fan, I don't know how you would trust anything that comes from Nico or that front office right now, but it's at least worth a shot. Anthony, what's going on, Anthony? Because first said Luka was smiling ear to ear, but you don't think AD and PJ Washington was hell? Might have to resend that one, Anthony? Are you saying both of them should be held out or something? Or I don't know. But appreciate you tuning in. Trade, what's going on? How are you doing? So I think if you are Dallas, depending on how the West kind of plays out over the next couple of weeks, that should probably force your hand in terms of AD and some of these other guys. Because look, if it's not within reach, you hold these guys out. Yes, the fans will probably be even more upset, but I don't even know how much more the upset they could necessarily be at this point based off everything that's gone on. Like, you take your lumps, you go in the offseason, you do what you got to do, and hope you're better off next year. I don't think there'll ever be – I don't think there's a move out there that they can make that covers up for the Luka trading away. But if you could just make some type of gains, surrounding AD and Kyrie, which I believe Kyrie is up for an extension in the offseason as well. Dallas has kind of made it known that they are prioritizing Kyrie. Obviously, you need two sides of that. Like, if Kyrie doesn't want to stay at Dallas, then prioritizing him does nothing for you. But, I'm sure money talks in most situations, so they can probably make him an offer that makes him want to stay. Because if you're Nico and Kyrie doesn't re-sign, then it's just like, how much more
Kyrie doesn't resign. He's not
destroy a team?
If Kyrie doesn't resign, he's not a job no more.
Yeah. Good. All right. So I guess starting with the Dallas conversation, like I said, look at pretenders and contenders. Mm-hmm. I would think, well, I guess before the Kyrie injury, we know, like I said, Luka was shipped out. Did you think the Mavericks were still somewhat contenders?
I maybe would have thought so. At least when I look at the Western Conference, there's 3 teams that really stand out as just like these. And it's really 2. I'll give the Lakers just the benefit of the doubt because they've been playing really well recently. And LeBron is LeBron, and Luka now has a championship experience, playing in an NBA Finals. Plus, the recent stroke of success, I'll give them credit. But really, the Thunder and the Nuggets are the 2 teams that really stand out in the West as like these are the teams that are probably going to contend this year, with the Lakers kind of being right there. I know a lot of people probably be a lot more higher than me on them, but we've seen the Lakers of the last couple of years, and them haven't been the greatest teams. So them being this good now, let us see it again, and then, obviously the Lakers will probably be just fine. But other than that, I would say they were probably if you could get AD back and healthy, they're probably on that better half of, would I take them in a series with the Rockets? Probably. A Kyrie AD. Probably take them over the Rockets. The Warriors, a little tough. It'd be a fun series. That would be a fun series right there. Probably still take the Mavericks. The Clippers, probably. I mean, they did it before. The Kings, yeah,
Hmm.
I'd probably take the Mavericks over the Kings, and then the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies, I would still probably take the Mavericks over both of them. So I mean, I would say they were probably on this better half of the second tier Western Conference teams. I would say like the you're gonna have to make a big run and kind of shock us type situation, because you'd have to go upset a one seed being a four or a five in comparison, being a three or a six. So I think they were probably on that better half. But now after the injury, they're probably playing bound. I do still think this Mavericks team can be decent if, AD comes back, but he probably won't come back till very much later in the season. If anything, probably, 10, 11, 12 games left in the season type situation. So, I mean, if they can keep up, they can keep up, but that's a really hard job to do. I mean, they've already lost their last two games. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So it's definitely hurting them.
Yeah. What's going on, Damien? If the Mavs don't make the playoffs, Nico needs to hide in Mexico like a fugitive. We said like
Man, to play
that's the
in
last thing that he needs.
hopes. You just need hopes and dreams really right now. I'm at the number 10 seed, but the Suns are right there. But you're 4 games ahead of the Suns. So,
Hmm. All right, so Anthony clarified his first comment. If AD comes back, do you think AD and PJ Washington can hold a spot to make the playoffs? So yeah, looking at the standings, like Dylan said, they are 3.5 up on the Suns. The Mavs are in 10th right now, so they're 3.5 up on the Suns, who are in 11th. You have a bit of a cushion there. The way that the West plays out, though, the Warriors are in 6th. The Mavs are only a game and a half behind the Warriors. So I think that's where you were kind of talking about, like where they are by the time that AD is ready to come back. Like if they're in this similar position, why not?
mm-hmm,
It's only a game and a
mm-hmm.
half between you and 6th. You let AD play the last, I don't know, 12 games of the season. See if you can't go like 9-3 or something, and maybe you move up into a position where maybe you're in 6th or like 7th or 8th at least, where you're getting home games in the playing tournament. I think that's doable.
It,
Now, if they somehow just completely fall off and like Phoenix overtakes them, then I might be like, you know what, AD, we'll just revisit this next year. Like you just stay out. So I think all things considered, let's say we fast forward to when AD's ready to come out. Standards are kind of the same. To answer Anthony's question, would AD and PJ Washington be enough to make the
yeah,
playoffs? I'd say yes. Yeah, I think it would be enough to at least make it out of the play-in because you're looking at Clippers, Kings, T Wolves, Mavericks right now. I could see the Mavericks being one of the two teams that comes out of that four with AD and PJ Washington. I think you at least have to give it a
yeah. I
shot.
mean, you got to think these playing games are good, strong, just one game. So you win, you're in basically. Outside if you're that 9 or 10 spot where you have to win twice.
Right.
But I mean, that's the name. You win, you're in. Could I bet on AD having a really strong performance? Yeah, probably if AD's the only one on the court, and he's just such a threat to stop anyways. If you look at the Timberwolves, I mean, you have Gobert, Randall, things like that. Man, AD's still a threat. AD's still a threat.
Yeah.
And it's going to really be matching up on bigs. The Kings are going to have a tough time stopping that. So I mean, there's different
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. If the Suns are a team that still move up, or like another team moves down, man, play in the Suns. The Suns haven't gave us any hope that they're a good team.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
look down there, you even got the Trailblazers. So if you find a way to have to pay the Trailblazers at at a 10 spot, and you can get 9. That's very beneficial for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like we're in agreement here that there's a path to the playoffs as long as things kind of stay somewhat like this until AD is ready to come back. So Gobert can't hold AD's t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying, and I would agree with, like if you had to match up with Minnesota and you had AD, I would like my chances with AD because AD is the type of big that yes, we'll give Gobert fits because he's going to have to play a little bit further from the basket and all that. Or if you try to throw Randall at him, I would say good luck on that as well.
Randall's too small.
Randall being an undersized four, like yeah, that's a nightmare. So yeah, if Minnesota can, I mean not Minnesota, if Dallas can work it and get a matchup against like Minnesota in like a 7-8 matchup, fine. You would like their chances of winning that and being the 7 seed, which of course, if everything plays out at the top, you get Lakers Mavs in the 2-7 matchup, which Adam Silver is probably sitting behind his desk right now hoping that would happen. And not to say Lakers fans should be worried about that matchup, just be like, just for the storylines alone, like that would be interesting to see. But yes, Jory, definitely agree. I would not like Gobert in a matchup versus AD. But I think okay, so you did say at the start that you had your contenders as the Thunder, Nuggets,
No.
with the Lakers as a
Yep.
third
Yep.
possible one. Okay. So I guess you're looking at the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies are not a contender team.
No.
Okay. What holds them back from being a contender for you?
They're a good team overall, but I feel like they haven't really proved anything. They're not the greatest team in a way. They haven't been playing great as of recently either. I just think when you look at teams like the Thunders, Lakers, and Nuggets, they do things that separate themselves from other packs. They have things that separate themselves, and the Grizzlies are a good team filled with good talent. But what do the Grizzlies do that's really way better than anyone else? Not having a good, away schedule, playing that 4-5 matchup too. You've already showed me that you struggle, playing at 500 at away games around that portion. Kind of be scary, if you have to play a team. Let's say something happens, you have to play, like the Rockets or the Warriors. Having to play the Warriors, at home first, that's gonna be rough. Especially since the Warriors already don't like the Grizzlies.
Yeah. See, for me, it's because I agree. I think the Grizzlies are an interesting team. Right now they have John Morant who's out. Obviously, they need Morant back if I'm going to even think about them as a contender. I do agree with you. They're probably a pretender right now because they do have to prove it in the playoffs. 1 and 2, it's like it seems like when they get to the playoffs, their perimeter play really hurts them. And when you're looking at, some of these other teams like the Thunder, really great on the perimeter, and they're a really good defensive team. So if you can't beat the Thunder on the perimeter, I don't see how you win that. When you look at the Lakers, it's like now with Luka, Luka and LeBron can give you that offensive firepower that now you have to question, are the Grizzlies good enough offensively to stay with a team like that? And then you got Denver, who can score really well. But even so, it's like, how would Memphis match up with like Jokic? Sure, Jaren Jackson is a defensive player of the year, like former candidate and all that kind of stuff. But Jokic is just so smart and he's such a great passer that you just wouldn't like them in a matchup like that. So I can agree with you. They're probably pretenders for sure, but I don't know. I feel like some people are kind of buying in with Memphis.
Remember when Memphis was really good? Like before Ja had all of this stuff we bought in, they got crushed though. They got crushed deep into the playoffs. Yeah. So gotta be finicky with those situations because it's kind of prove it to me that you can do it, and then post that. Yeah, the Nuggets have proved. The Thunder have been the number 1 seed multiple times before. The Lakers are just always been a scrappy franchise with LeBron on the team. They always make a deep run or do good out of nowhere. Those teams have proven that they can do it. The Grizzlies have made it barely. And in the second that, like the players on those teams, like the Thunder, Lakers, and the Nuggets, have proven to be really, really good as well. I know you mentioned Jaren Jackson, getting Defensive Player of the Year nods and things like that, but I mean, Nikola Jokic has won an MVP. Shai Gilgeous is one of the best players in basketball. Luka Doncic made a finals. LeBron James is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And not to knock the Grizzlies roster, John Morant's super good. What has John Morant really done so far, though? And I'm not talking about like MVP accolades, because these guys have outside of I guess Shea, but I'll give Shea Gilgeous the credit of being the number one seed, like 12 games ahead of everyone right now type situation. I feel like
Hmm.
that gives you the credit to be a contender, not a pretender, especially doing it back to back years. So I feel like the Grizzlies, they just don't have anything that I feel like can match up with these top three teams to take them very deep. I would pick
Yeah.
one of these three teams every single time, no matter where. If the Grizzlies had home court advantage or not, I would pick one of those three teams every time.
Okay. So Jory did put in here Coach of the Year, which she put that in when we were talking about the Lakers. So I'm assuming Jory was asking like about JJ as a Coach of the Year, because we will get back to the rest of the West End. We'll take a look at the East as well here in a little bit. So looking at Coach of the Year, would you have JJ as the Coach of the Year if you were voting on it right here, right now, today?
I mean, I have no personal hate against the second seed in the Western Conference as a first year head coach. Granted, now people can say how they will. It'd be like, you got Luka Doncic, that would make it a lot easier. Who cares? It's really impressive. Not a lot of people come into their first year. I mean, Celtics had really good luck with their first year. When Missoula, he was pretty good his first year. But other than that, I mean, Missoula won Coach of the Year, right? In his first season, he didn't. Oh, I wasn't sure who did that season, but
I think it was it
oh,
Dagnall
okay.
who won?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a Thunder. But overall,
Yeah.
you got to give it credit. I mean, if you look at other people who might get it, I mean, Dagnall would probably be an option again. But I mean, it's a first year head coach. We know the Thunder can do this. We didn't expect this really out of the Lakers. A lot of people questioned the JJ Redick hiring and wondered if it was good. Even at the start of the
Hmm.
season when the Lakers weren't doing so hot, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, look, how good it's going for them." And now that they are doing good and playing like one of the better teams in the NBA right now, yeah, I have no issue with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, I definitely think JJ's going to get a lot of consideration. You know, I would probably go Atkinson in Cleveland,
Hmm.
then JJ, and then I would show a lot of love to Bickerstaff, who got fired in Cleveland, goes to Detroit, and has turned Detroit into what they are. I would say those would probably be your top three right now. And however you put them, I think you'd have a valid argument either way. Like if you think JJ's Coach of the Year, I'm not going to argue against it because he's done a really good job with the Lakers. But I just feel like with Atkinson, with Cleveland having the best record, he's obviously going to get a lot of votes for it. But I think it's an interesting race. Jory does add that the media does not like Missoula. Jory, you're preaching to the choir here because, yeah, if Missoula didn't get it last year, he's not even being talked about this year. He'll probably never get one. And, it is what it is. Missoula's a character. I will say that. So, all right. So, getting back into the West. Okay. So, taking the Grizzlies, Rockets, Warriors, who would you say is a bigger potential contender from that three? Because we did talk about the Grizzlies. I'm not going to sit here and go through each team and talk all the way through about it, but I guess we'll extend it out to the Clippers as well. So Grizzlies, Rockets, Warriors, Clippers. Who's the biggest contender from that group of four to kind of upset the top three in the West? To
Got
you,
to be the Warriors, right? Playoff Jimmy, Steph Curry.
yeah.
It's got to be the Warriors. This Warriors team is looking really good now, just from what we've seen from it. Played really good. Have
Mm-hmm.
played very good recently. Jimmy Butler looks good on this team. Curry's had that big performance the other night. Man, this Warriors team's good, and if the rumors are true about Jimmy turns it up in the playoffs, and we're gonna get a different version of that, that's going to be, what if both of them have nights back and forth? It's going to be hard to stop one of them on very streaky nights. So it's going to be really interesting. I mean, the Steph Curry is a championship caliber player, and even though Jimmy Butler's never won one, he's been to multiple finals, and he knows what it takes to have deep playoff runs and upset teams as a matter of that. So I got to say the Warriors. The Warriors got one of the greatest coaches in NBA basketball, and Steve Kerr behind it as well too. Can't hate it.
Yeah, I think from that group you'd have to say it would be the Warriors because we talked about the Grizzlies and their kind of deficiencies offensively that we potentially see. I think with the Rockets, they're just too young for us to kind of vault them up to that level because yeah, they're having a good regular season, but playoffs are a different animal. This will be their first time really dealing with that. And remember, most for a lot of the year, the Rockets were up there as like a 2-3 seed. They started dropping some games here or there. I mean, they're still only 2 games behind the Lakers, but I feel like this will be more of a learning experience for them, and you would hope that it carries over into next year for Houston. And then the Clippers, look, I don't know what to expect from the Clippers. They have Kawhi Leonard, but what is Kawhi Leonard right now?
True.
You have James Harden. You got Ty Lue, who's seems a really good coach. You got Norman Powell, who's had a good year. It's just like, yeah, I don't know if I can fully buy into them. So I would agree. I think it's the Warriors, and I think it's an easy pick from those four. Uh, sounds like Clay was the weak link on the team. I I mean, it's not has not been a great year for Clay. He's gone to Dallas. He's struggled a lot with his shot and the score. And I think a lot of people thought with the way the Warriors moved on from him that he's going to have like a real prove it type of year to show the Warriors are wrong. I can't disagree with you, Anthony. Like it looks like right now they made the right move and moving on from him. And I like Clay as a player a lot, but he definitely seems like he is slowing down at a rapid pace right now. And it's crazy that we were just talking about Dallas a couple of minutes ago. We didn't mention the fact about what about AD, PJ Washington, and Clay. Like we strictly talked about AD and his impact on that team. So that probably lets you know kind of how far Clay has fallen off for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's switch to the East right now.
Okay.
So looking at the East, you have the Cavs who have a 7.5 game lead on the Celtics. Celtics have 2.5 game lead on the Knicks. Then you have the Bucks who have played better lately, are in a tie with the Pacers for the 4 seed, but I think they own the tiebreaker, so they're 4. Pacers are at 5. Those Pistons that talked about a little earlier, half game behind those two teams. And then you get a gap between the Pistons and the play-in where the Heat are 5 games behind the Pistons. Then you have the Magic a game behind the Heat. And the Magic got their own bad news today where Jalen Suggs is out for the year,
Mm-hmm.
had a procedure on his knee done. You have the Hawks who are a half game behind the Magic. And then you have the Bulls sitting there at the 10 seed, 4 games behind the Hawks. So kind of like we do with the West, we could look at this play-in situation in the East. Any chance one of those 4 teams in the play-in could give the Cavaliers or the Celtics a run for their money?
Oh, man. Any 4 teams in the play-in? No. No.
Right. I feel like Orlando, if they were healthy, well, one if Orlando was healthy, you wouldn't expect them to be down that far. But they are banged up right now. The Wagners are out
Mm-hmm.
now. Suggs, it would be a lot to ask of them. Yeah, I agree. I don't see I don't see anything down there that worries uh, Celtics as a fan or the Cavs. Like Heat culture, we get it, but that's over and done with. The Hawks, the Hawks are one of the bigger tease teams in the league because I was watching their game last night. They had a great comeback win against the Grizzlies last
Mm-hmm.
night, but then you look at their record, it's like, yeah, they're still 5 games below 500. So, yeah, yeah. Like the Jalen Johnson injury for the Hawks was a big deal. I'm not going to sit here and act like they aren't missing a big piece, but with all the talk about Trae Young, his double doubles and all the assists and everything like that, they're still a below 500 team. So yeah, and then the Bulls, like I'm not even gonna, yeah, not even gonna bridge that subject. So let's look at the top 6. I think we would agree the Cavs and the Celtics are contenders to come out of the
Mm-hmm.
East. Looking at the Knicks, Bucks, Pacers, Pistons, how do you view those teams going into the playoffs? Who's the biggest threat to Boston or Cleveland?
Uh, Maybe I would have to just say the Knicks, just because they're more tested. This Knicks team hasn't really,
Mhm.
obviously, no, not the number one seed, of course, but they haven't been not anything too bad. Carl Anthony Towns looks like he's kind of upgraded as a player a little bit, especially playing within New York. He seems a lot better, especially on the rebounding end, as well as the ball. I would just say this Knicks team, they're really crafty. They have a lot of guys that can do a bunch of different things within, like Josh Hart, Carl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson. A lot of good guys. And then on good nights, good coaching could do really well and upset. I mean, I feel like this Knicks team could be better than this Cavaliers team. The Celtics might a little run for our money, but we've seen this Knicks team be better than this Cavaliers team before. So now they have the addition of Carl Anthony Towns. So um, the Bucks are always interesting just because Giannis Antetokounmpo is such a good player. Damian Lillard can take over on any given night, and we haven't really seen this Bucks team do that in the playoffs yet. But just having Giannis, great coach. No, I wouldn't say great coaching, but great players around it. Not having Chris
Mhm.
Middleton, might hurt you. We haven't seen a playoff run without Chris Middleton, so that would be really interesting as well too. But overall, I think the Bucks are good, but really past that, I'm not sure if I'm too sold on the Pacers being a team that could upset yet. Just not sure what it is with them. I just don't feel like they're just there yet. And then the Pistons, Pistons absolutely crazy. Very recently have won their like last 9 out of their 10 games or something like that. So some very very good as well. Like we mentioned, JB Bickerstaff, Coach of the Year potential candidate. Team's really really good.
Mhm.
That's kind of what we've been waiting on. I know we've been talking basketball for a little bit now, and every year we've kind of been like, man, this Pistons team, man, if they can get that progression, this Pistons team is going to be really, really, really good. And now they're at that point where, like, oh, okay, they're starting to look really, really good now.
Yeah, and you were right. The Pistons have won 9 of the last 10, so they're really starting to get it going. And shout out to JB Bickerstaff and the guys down at Cade Cunningham, who's having a great season. I'm gonna kind of go with Trajan here. Looking at those four, the team I worry about is the Bucks. I'm not buying into the Knicks. I've seen the Knicks struggle against the Celtics, and I feel like in a 7 game series, I wouldn't trust the Knicks against the Cavs either. Are they improved? Yes, but there's still certain things about the Knicks team I just can't buy in the playoffs. Like they have Brunson, who still obviously does a lot for them. They have Cat, who offensively does a lot, but Cat struggles against the Celtics on
Mm-hmm.
defense because of the bigs that can shoot. Unfortunately for him, unless you stick him on Jared Allen, and you can kind of hide that a little bit, but if he gets caught out on the perimeter on Mobley or something, I feel like Mobley would just cook him out there. So I feel like because what the Celtics kind of do is they hunt Brunson and Cat on defense. I feel like the Cavs would just do the same thing in a 7 game series using Mitchell and Mobley and whoever they need to kind of get the matchups that they need. And I just don't like that Knicks team. So because of Giannis, and I keep saying this, that I will always think the Bucks have a shot. Yes, I thought the Middleton move was surprising, but Kuzma's kind of filled into that role and has played
Mm-hmm.
well so far. Obviously, playoffs once again, different thing. So I think the key for the Bucks would be avoid the Celtics until the conference finals. Because we've seen the Bucks have good teams and the Celtics just find a way to beat them. So I think if the Bucks can stay, like if the Celtics are the 2 seed, I'd rather if I were a Bucks fan, and Trajan, you can let me know if you agree with this. I'd rather the Bucks be the 4 seed and take your chance with the Cavs before you get to the Celtics. Because if they're 2-3, I think the Celtics would get them in that'd be what, the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
I would take the Celtics over them. And hold on, Anthony says I don't believe in the Knicks. They're going to run their stars to the ground, and the Bucks are frauds. I don't think the Bucks are frauds necessarily, but I get what you're saying about the Knicks. Traden says Bobby's out for 25 games, getting healthy and rested. Other guys getting time and learning explode come playoff time. I mean, that's obviously what the hope would be in Milwaukee. Like my only hesitation with Milwaukee, I guess the age when it comes to like Portis and Lopez against the Celtics team, that would be my worry.
Mm-hmm.
And even Dame a little bit, but if you have Giannis and he's upright and he's healthy, I'm always going to give them a shot. So I think I would have them as the biggest threat from those four. The Pacers, you feel like the Pacers should probably be at that level because you look at some of the guys on the roster. It's like you have Halliburton, who's really good offensively. You have Turner, who although it seems like Turner's always on the move, but he still is there and producing. You have like a guy like Neesmith, who's kind of carved out a role there and does this thing. But once again, I wouldn't trust them in semifinal series or conference finals like last year where they played the Celtics tough, but in those moments where you had to go out and win the game, they failed in those moments. So I don't think that they're much better this year than they were last year. Okay, so Trajan also mentions the Jericho Sims edition, which they did get that over the deadline as well. Underrated ad by Bucks for defense. Kuzma has been solid, and he's a third guy. If Lopez can come along with Giannis and Dame, this team is dangerous. I think it's a fair point. And Trajan agrees. Yeah, avoid the Celtics until the conference finals, because that would be the one team that probably would have the best chance of knocking out the. Like if the Bucks got the Cavs in the second round, I might be crazy enough to take the Bucks over them. As good as the Cavs are, the Cavs have a lot to prove this postseason for sure. Okay. I think I had another question I was going to ask about the NBA here. I just blanked on it. All right. So, okay. Yeah. Let's go to Perk. Kendrick Perkins, today he was on First Take. He said a few things that, whatever you could probably discuss. But I think the biggest one he had was he said that LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA. And we know that LeBron is coming up on 50,000 points, which once that happens, there'll be some big celebration and everything about
They're going
it.
to be doing, the road to 50K.
Yeah, the price off the game and everything, which I mean, 50,000 points when you think about it is kind of crazy. But like he's been around for a while, so yeah. But is he the best player in the NBA right now? Or is Perk talking crazy?
I'm not sure if I could say just because the NBA is so vast and there's so many different players that do so many differently good things. Like Nikola Jokic, man, is so good. He's so crafty, such a good player. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is one of the better scorers in the league. It's so hard. I don't think you can pinpoint one player really as the best. I mean, I guess that's kind of our purpose for MVPs every year, the most valuable player. But overall, for his age, he is definitely still one of the best players in the NBA. What he's doing right now, he is still definitely. Can you probably say top five? Or yeah, probably. You can probably say top five. If he's not in your top five, he has to be in like 6 or 7, probably close in that range of active players that are still like the best in the league. Just because his resume speaks for itself. He's still competing at a high level day in and out, doing crazy things. Not other players in the league still do. And still being a great playoff threat year in and year out as well too. I'm just saying skill wise right now, like Jokic is good, man. Jokic is a good player. You have a player like Giannis who can do so much as well. Um, it's just hard to just give him the crown of being the best overall when there's so many good talents in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Perk was like when I heard Perk say it, I was just like, what are we doing here? But yeah, I mean, you still have to give LeBron credit for what he is doing at his age and all the years that he's played, all the miles on his body. That yes, you definitely give him credit for that. But I don't think, yeah, best player, not at all. Train said that LeBron isn't even top 10. Now, I think that's another probably discussion that could be had. So, Trajan, if he's not top 10, I would love to know your 10 players that are better than him.
If I had to think of 10,
I mean, I'm not saying you don't have an argument there, but just for my own, uh, I guess, point of view, would love to know the 10 that you would have over LeBron.
so my guess would have to be if he says not top 10. So
You're
Luca,
probably
would
looking
you
at
put
Jokic.
Luca over LeBron in that case? They play on the same team now.
Yeah, I mean that'd be my guess. You'd probably go Jokic, Luca, right? SGA. You'd probably go Tatum. I'm trying to think of like obvious ones
Curry,
because I even think like Curry would probably be a discussion.
AD,
I feel like KD a discussion. Like, are you putting Booker ahead of him? Are you putting Giannis? I'm going to say Giannis, obviously. Um, hmm, I don't know. Do you put Ant up there?
you
Do
have to
you
guess
put
so many. As whereas, like, if you reverse the question, and if we were talking about it from like Anthony Edwards'
so we have his
perspective,
list.
and being like, is Anthony Edwards top 10? And it's like, would you put him over LeBron? And it's like, ooh, that's a little rough to think about now. When you reverse the question around, would you put? I don't know.
So he's got Wemby, Luca, Steph, Tatum, Giannis, Jokic, Brunson, SGA, Ant, Donovan Mitchell, and I'm assuming that's Jalen Brown. So he has 11 players he named right there. Look, I love the Jalen Brown take. Trajan, you already know. I'm not as high on Brunson as a lot of people are, but I guess that's probably an argument there. I mean, is it too soon for Wemby? Maybe that's a question, but you look at Wemby just yeah, I was about to say Mitchell is another guy you could probably have a discussion about. Wemby, it might be too soon, but also speed of recovery to Wemby dealing with the blood
Mm-hmm.
clots. Blood
You
clot.
hate to see that.
Um, if you're asking me who I would take today to start a team or on my team, those are my guys. Okay.
I guess if we're well, yeah, when you word it like that, yes. If we're talking about if we had to start a franchise or something, yeah, I imagine I'd probably take a lot of these guys over. I would take, LeBron James for example, just given the age and stuff. If we're talking about just best players, just talent wise, if you had to do a fantasy draft, you can only have them for one season. LeBron's up there.
Right. I would say just take him. I would say just take him for this season. Like, how would you do your top 10?
Yeah, because you have a good point. Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, SGA, Jalen Brown, those are all young pieces. If we're talking about franchise pieces, they would all rank above LeBron. LeBron would probably be, very low, probably in the top 20, 25 if we're talking about players you want to start a franchise with today. It's because LeBron has a couple years left on him. Good years left, obviously, really good tread, but still only a couple years left on him.
Yeah, like I said, looking at Trajan's list, the ones I would have reservations on would be Brunson. I think Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell could probably do a lot for himself. The playoffs this season, which I did, that kind of triggered the follow up question I had that I forgot, but I'll get back to it because I do remember it now. So Brunson, Mitchell. Look, I'm a Celtics fan. I could see questions about Jalen Brown being over LeBron. And the only thing I would say for Jalen Brown is we've seen him as a running mate to Tatum. Like if you're doing a list like this, you're probably thinking of as Jalen Brown running his own team.
Mm-hmm.
Would he be better? I don't know. So those are the ones I may have questions with. I don't think it's a terrible list in any way,
Mm-hmm.
but
mean, you can make arguments for all of them, to be fair.
Arguments that could be had for all. Yeah. I don't base it on stats or name. It's who I want on my team, and that's a fair way of looking at it, Trajan. I definitely get that. So the question that I did have that was gonna be the follow up, because this was another question on First Take. Who has the most pressure on them these playoffs that are coming up to win?
I don't know. I feel like, honestly, when you think about it, the team that really was pressured the most was the Celtics, and they won their championship.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of these teams are just trying to prove it to us. The Mavericks kind of shocked. Just different things like that. Just kind of waiting for teams to prove it to us. Maybe you'd think the Bucks just for Doc Rivers, maybe. The Clippers are a team you don't really have too much faith in. You could have said the 76ers before their ultimate crash and the Joel Embiid injury.
Yeah.
I guess the Nuggets.
So if we took it just not teams, I would say, how about a player or a coach that probably has the most pressure?
I would say you would want to give SGA a fair amount of pressure. He is that leader of this young Thunder team. They're going to arguably, probably most likely, be the first overall seed. I do really like the Knicks take as well, too. They're a team that's kind of made a lot of different moves recently, doing a lot of different things. You need in the first round, something along those lines would suck a lot for the franchise. Outside of that, it's just your one seeds. Whoever's your one seed's going to be. So if it's going to be both the Cavaliers and the Thunder, and they both end up being those one seeds with these, 6, 7, 8 game, leads, how they win it. You gotta compete, man. Because everyone can do good in the regular season, but it doesn't matter as long as you make the playoffs.
Okay.
Everyone's on even form once the playoffs happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can definitely see the Knicks take as well. Like they bring in Bridges, they've got Cat, they got Brunson, they have Hart, they have all these guys, and you could probably still say they might be a bad matchup against Celtics or the Cavs. I do think if this trend kind of continues, I kind of could see the pressure on the Lakers building. And I think some of it may be unrealistic because obviously that move was made with the future in mind, with Luka becoming the guy in LA post LeBron. But we already know you're dealing with the Lakers brand name, you're dealing with LeBron brand name. If they are up there as a 2 seed, there's going to come a lot of pressure with that come playoffs. But I think the player that has the most pressure, I think, is Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell now has another good team that he's on. He had some in Utah and couldn't get it done there. You could say he has a more complete team around him in Cleveland now. I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Mitchell to get that team to at least the conference finals, and probably has to get them to the finals, even though we know, if the Celtics are around, if the Bucks are around, it won't be easy. But I feel like it's Donovan Mitchell. And I agree with you. I think SGA is going to have a lot on him as well, especially if he's going to be viewed as the MVP this year. That's added pressure for him, especially with the way that their playoffs ended last year, losing to Minnesota in the second round, I believe. So, yeah, I think SGA and Mitchell would be two good choices for like the most pressure. Bucks or Giannis might want to get out. Okay. I guess Trajan get out of what? But I guess Chad, who do you feel like player wise has the most pressure come playoffs?
Jimmy Butler.
That's actually a good one too.
Jimmy Butler. You come force your way out of Miami. You had all this talk about your suspensions, everything like that throughout the season. Get the trade that you want. Maybe not the trade that you wanted because he didn't that first want to go to Golden State. But you're there now. They extended you. Time to do the same things you're doing in Miami here.
I
Really,
think
that's
that's
why they
fair.
traded for you.
Think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, Golden State obviously made that move, even though originally their target was KD. KD didn't want to go back to Golden State. They pivoted to just dealing with Miami directly and getting Butler out of Miami. Like you're a 6 seed right now. They would be in line to play the Nuggets in the first round. That might be the one team they would hate to see in the first round.
You know,
Because
Jimmy hates Nuggets.
yeah, but it's just like you got Kevon Looney dealing with Jokic. Like I don't necessarily like that. Um, I mean, I don't know who their best matchup would necessarily be. Maybe the Grizzlies. Like if they could find a way to get to 5 and get to the Grizzlies, maybe that might be the team that they'd want to face in the first round. Anthony brings up another
Or
one.
even like a team like, or even like the Rockets, for example. I would favor the Rockets, you know. Well, I favor them over the Rockets, maybe.
Yeah. Anthony says, "What about Luka in terms of pressure in the playoffs? He needs to show out and get a ring." That kind of plays into
So,
what I was saying about the Lakers, though. Like if the Lakers are the 2 seed, I think pressure will come from that because they are the Lakers and the brand. I think all things considered, the Lakers made the move not thinking they were going to be like contenders this year. It was more about next year than the few years after that. But I agree, because of the start he's had in LA, there is going to be pressure on Luka to help LeBron and the Lakers get to the finals. Traden says, I think the Bucks have the most pressure as a team, or Giannis may want to leave. Okay, I got you. That seems like an every year report though. Whether like Giannis's love level with the Bucks and Milwaukee, like whether he wants to stay or go. I'm sure we'll get the same story in the offseason. So I mean, Trajan, I guess going along with that, I guess how far did the Bucks have to go for Giannis to feel like they're on the right track? Because I agree, like if they lose in the first round, then yeah, Giannis may want to go. But if they lose, like in the conference finals, I feel like he probably might look at it as we're there, we're close. Yeah. All right. Um, let's see. About an hour in, I feel like we can switch to the NFL. All right. So the NFL, look, there's so many times where we get to off seasons and I'll talk about like how MLB does a terrible job of staying relevant in their off season. I think the NBA does well in their off season because you usually get a lot of player movement. Uh, the NFL is probably the best at staying relevant in their off season, and they aren't
mhm.
setting up this year. Like we haven't made it to free agency. We just had the combine happen. And I will say the combine, I don't know how much of the combine you watched, but it's like some of the talent that was on display there, fascinating. I mean, I'm sitting here watching D lineman run like a 4.40, which is nuts to think about that these are now guys who will be in the league next year. The quarterback play, I heard a lot about Jackson Dart and everything like that. But we also got some news from the actual NFL teams where we saw what Debo Samuel get traded
Yeah.
from the Niners to the Commanders for a 5th round pick. A lot of other organizations were like, we could have Debo Samuel for a 5th round pick. How come we didn't get involved? I mean, how much do you like that move for the Commanders? Because now they have Terry McLaurin, you got Debo Samuel playing off of him now.
So, my opinion about this, I really like the move as long as you don't change your offensive identity around Jalen Daniels to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate Debo Samuel. This team was good. This Commanders team was so good, and just doing what you did with rookie Jalen Daniels, you don't want to change too much up. Like even getting Debo Samuel, I was like, I'm not sure. I really like the Commanders getting them because why mess up what's been working for you? And of course, Debo's a good gadget guy, can do so much things for you. But I don't want them to, you know, maybe focus some other offensive things on a guy like Debo Samuel, who hasn't been particularly the greatest. When if you can incorporate him into that offense to work and mesh with what you already have, that's a perfect pickup. But don't change your identity because you have a guy like Debo Samuel now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think what they did last year in making it to the NFC Championship was definitely unexpected. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily rip up everything just because you got Debo. I think for Cliff Kingsbury, this should just add another weapon at Jaden Daniels' disposal. That maybe you change up a little bit in terms of certain packages you throw Debo in, but I definitely love the move for them as well. Oh, hold on, got a comment over on TikTok. Dart will get the Jordan Love treatment. Will be the best quarterback in this class.
A lot of people are really high on Jackson Dart, as before, and it's really started picking up like the last couple months. I think Jackson Dart's really good, and maybe because I have some Old Miss bias in me, but I don't know. He's a great talent and a great quarterback, and he was good at Old Miss, but I feel like every player gets hyped up. I've been seeing
Mm-hmm.
people hype up Brady Cook from Missouri. Um, been seeing people hype up, Jalen Monroe's been getting a lot more hype and stuff again. Quinn Ewers has been getting even tiny bits of more hype. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of those guys perform super well at the combine and things like that. And I think that's a lot because, no offense to Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward, they're not really marketing themselves really well, I feel like, in this draft class. Not anything bad in particularly. It's just like, I don't know. They just both kind of seem nonchalant, not caring about the combine, not throwing, not even participating in anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's literally this open space has had time for those two guys um, to do whatever they could. This was their opportunity to shine and, stabilize themselves as the number one overall guy. And it feels like they're just like, we're going to get drafted in the first round. We know that. We don't care what happens. So it gave a lot of opportunities for these guys, to kind of step up. I've heard a lot of different names in the quarterback
Mm-hmm.
cycle of this NFL draft because a lot of teams are needy of quarterbacks that aren't going to be in the next couple seasons. Will Dart be really good?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
Go ahead.
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He's going to be that next game changer. And Seattle's talking about being a team to get him as well too. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I feel like we see this every draft cycle. That especially with the quarterback position, there's always one that kind of jumps up from everything. I think Jackson Dart's probably the guy coming out of the combine, and we'll probably start to hear a little bit more about him. Obviously, if he has like a great pro day, which I feel like all these guys usually have great pro days because it's a more of a controlled setting for
mhm.
them. Yeah, he may start climbing some draft boards. I do think it's interesting that you talked about like the quarterback class that's going in. I feel like you get 20 people to do a mock draft right now. Cam Ward and Sanders will be mocked in like different places. Like some people think like Cam Ward will probably go number 2 to Cleveland. And I've seen everything about Sanders where maybe he goes 3 or he goes like later near like pick 10. And I feel like everything in between that is just like how desperate will some of these teams be that need a quarterback? Do they think that they will need to move up to get one? Or do they think one might just slip to them? Because if you look at the top, yeah, you got Tennessee at number 1,
Mhm.
who people will say needs a quarterback. And Jory, if you're in here, I know that you would love to have a quarterback, but would you take one at number 1? You have Cleveland at 2. We know Cleveland wants to get into the like veteran quarterback market. So if they were to get one, that would probably change their plans at 2. You have the Giants at 3. The Giants are trying to get in on free agency with the quarterback, so that might change their plans at 3. New England at 4 has Drake May. They're not going to take one. It's like on down the line until you get to like the Jets at 7. So I think the top of the draft this year might be wildly unpredictable outside of like Abdul Carter will probably go obviously in the top 4. I mean, Travis Hunter probably goes in the top 5. After that, like I don't even know. Like Will Campbell was seen up there, but then Will Campbell measured out the combine with short arms. We know how much that affects tackle prospects. And it's just like yeah, it's just crazy what might happen in a draft that isn't even seen as that strong to begin with.
At least not strong in like quarterbacks.
Like the top tier
It seems what
prospects.
I've been seeing, it's like you can get like a lot of people have been saying you'll get the bulk of your talent in like day two, day three. Like a lot of guys
Yeah.
from the first round to even like day three are like all same quality type players, all good players.
Yeah. I think that kind of makes for a more exciting draft,
Agreed.
not gonna lie.
Agreed.
So we'll definitely see how that plays out. But then looking at free agency, um, we had what the Jets, who said that they're gonna release Aaron Rodgers, obviously, then release Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what kind of market do you think Adams will have, and do we assume he follows Rodgers? Because since that's kind of the narrative that surrounds Devontae Adams since he got his way to New York to play with Rodgers last season.
That's
Do you think they end up in the same
That's
spot?
something we talked about. It's tricky when you look at it. It's because when you look at teams like who would potentially go after Aaron Rodgers now if he were to get cut. Okay, Las Vegas. Devontae
A
Adams.
lot of people are saying the Giants.
Devontae Adams is not going back to Las Vegas. I don't even think he would if Aaron Rodgers were there.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, scratch that. What's another team that might need a quarterback? The Giants. That was a team we were discussing. A little bit before we started our show that you could go get both. Malik Neighbors is there. You got Devontae Adams have a good 1-2 piece. So you still got some younger players. You got Tyron Tracy, who was really, really good as a rookie running back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Throw in Aaron Rodgers there. Give him a good offense, like an offensive scheme-minded guy like Brian Dayball. Make something work there. Um, you know, Giants maybe not sold on a quarterback or might not have the potential to get one. Especially if they go one or two or a specific example like that. Have a chance to get someone like Abdul Carter, maybe Travis Hunter. Someone to just throw in because you just need the best player available. I even think personally, Giants fans, you don't want one of these quarterbacks this year. I know it might look nice on paper to just throw a different guy in there. You're tired of the veterans. You're tired of the Daniel Jones. So you just want something new. But I think just waiting for next
Mm-hmm.
year and hoping for the best might be your best case scenario. Ride it out with Rodgers. Try to see if you can get that Arch Manning sweepstakes. Get
Yeah.
another man. Get a man.
Yeah.
I think Giants fans would be happy to get another Manning in New York.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's where a lot of these quarterback needy teams will have to think about it is with this year's quarterback class not seen as a great one. A lot of people look to next year's class as a much better one. You have to think, do you take a guy in this year's draft hoping that they could be as good as what's coming out next year? Outside of, I guess a lot of people think Cam Ward is the consensus number one. And even with that, it's like, how good is Cam Ward? Like, I've heard Cam Ward mocked as like a Steve McNair type. If he's Steve McNair, I would, I'd take him because Steve McNair had a really good career. You know, Sanders, I think there's questions about how good he'll actually be at the NFL level. Like, I think he'll be a decent quarterback. I don't know how good he'll be, but I don't know if I see Shador as like a top five quarterback that I would take in the top five of the draft.
One of the most accurate quarterbacks we've ever seen in just college history
Mm-hmm.
in Shador Sanders. It's just
Yeah.
struggles, man. He holds the ball for too long, and a lot of that gets sacked a lot. And some of that was because Colorado had horrible offensive linemen,
Yeah.
horrible offensive linemen. But he just seems like stuck a lot of times, and where some of those decisions were on Shador, not his own linemen. As I think we have a guy with Cam Ward who can just do more. He's a great scrambler. He can run the ball. To be fair, I don't. I would take a guy probably even more like Jalen Milroe, someone who kind of fits that scheme of what the NFL is now. Did you hear that
Mm-hmm.
story about his hand size being bigger, than what it was before his measurements and all that stuff? With that time,
Yeah.
very weird. But there's a lot of these guys that like we've mentioned earlier. Ward, Sanders, Dart, Monroe, Ewers. People like Brady Cook, people like Tyler Schroed, Louisville's quarterback, a lot. I've been hearing a lot of people go crazy over him, thinking that he's the best quarterback in the draft. Give him the Jordan Love treatment. He's going to do something. So it's really hard to kind of gauge how good these guys really are, especially at the quarterback position, because no one, even your first two picks, the first two quarterbacks who will go in the first round, probably your top 10 picks, really don't have much separating themselves. So that's why you can see a guy like, Jackson Dart just sneak up and be, potential third guy taken in the first round. Because these guys aren't really separating themselves as these big guys in comparison. Everyone's kind of close. So these quarterback needy teams are like, man, is Dart too much far off than Shedeur Sanders talent wise? Is Dart too much far off than Cam Ward talent wise? I'm not too sure. If your answer is that you think Jackson Dart's better, then I mean, totally makes sense. I mean, it's a super close class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting. We also learned through free agency, Saquon Barkley is now the NFL's top paid running back. He got a 2-year deal, $41.7 million from the Eagles. I guess this is probably a simple question. Good
Yeah,
deal or
yeah.
not?
I don't care, man. You
Yeah.
could have gave that man $25 million. I'd have been like, give him whatever he wants. Saquon Barkley
Yeah.
is Philadelphia right now. He is Philadelphia's identity, outside of Jalen Hurts, of course. Then that defense
Mm-hmm.
did wonders. I'm not selling it short, but if you think of Philadelphia Eagles right now, it's Saquon. It's Saquon from what he's done all season, all the highlights that he's made. Just he deserves it. He deserves to be the highest paid running back. He deserved to be probably arguably the highest paid running back when he was a free agent last year. Now, granted, I know you had,
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry. You're going to have a guy like Nick Chubb who's going to be a free agent soon. All these different great running backs. He deserves it. The running back position is more prevalent now, and Saquon Barkley's the face of it. We were talking just a couple of years ago how undervalued they were, that people weren't paying them. And Saquon Barkley, I wouldn't say single-handedly, but he was definitely the driving force of making that position super popular again. Um, Shout out to a bunch of these rookie running backs too from this year, from last year, even though the year before that have been super good. Bijan Robinson, Ashton Jeanty, someone who's going to be coming in, I know, do big things and people are going to be happy about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big running back class this year too. So the position is back and
Yeah.
it's better than ever. And Saquon Barkley should be the face of that. And being the highest paid running back is what he deserves.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a couple of years ago when, running backs were out here like holding a cardboard sign looking for deals, it's like, give it time, like it was going to correct itself. And yeah, when you win the Super Bowl and you had a running back with like 2,000 yards and threatening the rushing records, it's like, yeah, now teams will start thinking like, okay, so we get ourselves a dominant running back, then that just is going to make our team much better, because it seemed like the trend was going, get your quarterback, get a tight end, get a wide receiver, get a line, and you're good. Running backs, you can pluck them anywhere in the draft and you'll be fine, which is still the case. Like there's still running backs you'll get like in the third, fourth round who will be productive in this league. But having a top tier running back, it just makes it so much easier on your quarterback, especially if you have a young quarterback like Hurts or one of these other guys out there. So yeah, I think Saquon Barkley's season has definitely helped reshape the running back market. And like you said, Derrick Henry too, he had a great year as well. And so it seems like those two guys are showing the importance of the running back position once again. So I love to see that for sure. I guess we can talk about your team. Seahawks made some moves today to clear about 27 million in
It was
salary.
27 million, and I think it ended up being it broke down to about like 16 million in the actual usable cap space. And so that's shoot, I'll take it.
That's still sizable,
I
yeah.
mean, we didn't release anybody. I mean, I think people were a little upset about losing Rayshon Jenkins just because he was a big vocal guy. We traded for him from Jacksonville. Really good defensive piece. Very vocal. Did a lot. I think it was very underrated, especially in the safety position this season. But losing guys like Draymond Jones,
Mm-hmm.
we traded for him, a part of that Russell Wilson trade. The picks were so useful. The picks that we got from the Russ trade was so great. Draymond Jones was also one of those pieces we got. Player-wise, just was not good. Roy Robert Harrison was
Mm-hmm.
one of those guys, part of the kind of Rayshon Jenkins taken from Jacksonville experience. Not really too good itself. And then George Fant, I feel like he is on Seattle at least once a year, and then he's also getting cut by the end of the year at some point. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure he was on the Jets at
Yeah.
one point this season too. So
Yeah. Now I did see a story where there's some rumblings that Lockett might get released this offseason.
I have heard that. There's been rumors. So
I'm a big Lockett guy.
as of the last couple of days, what I've heard is like they're the plans to release him if we can't get like a restructure. But I've heard the restructure is going well, and then us also releasing this much amount of money, I feel like kind of gives us a little more flexibility to keep Lockett.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to lose
Seattle's is interesting. Yeah, Seattle's interesting with the releases, and then you have the Lockett news, and it's like teams are calling about DK Metcalf to see his availability, but it's like Seattle's saying everything like, no, we're gonna build our offense around DK Metcalf. Like I don't know necessarily. I don't even know who to believe necessarily. Like I feel like DK Metcalf's kind of been out there for a couple of years. He just hasn't been moved yet. And I think he's a good wide receiver. Like, guys with his size and his speed don't come around all the time. And I feel like if you're Seattle, why would you necessarily give up on that? But I mean, I don't know.
They love JSN.
Behind closed doors or anything like that.
Me personally, you want to think I know what it is because we have Geno Smith on the team. And for starters, JSN had a breakout season last year. He was a better receiver than DK Metcalf. Not by too much, but a lot younger at the position as well, too. Man, Geno Smith, that's Geno Smith. Jeremiah Smith is his cousin. His little cousin. I feel like he might try to get a whole Ohio State receiver room in Seattle. But
yeah.
I don't want to move DK. I'm a big DK Metcalf fan. That is my favorite player personally in the NFL right now. It would suck. I would hate to see it. But people just think people need changes and stuff like that. Seattle's also a very quiet team when it comes to their movement. So this could have just been leaked by someone else. And just because Seattle's not, denying it or really saying too much about it, people think, there's always rumblings. And also, this is a business. I bet right now the best receivers in the league probably get talked about being traded at least maybe once. There's teams always calling, being like, so what's the deal with him? Yeah. There's always work and frame weight rates all the time for different things.
Right. That's definitely a fair point. So Anthony wants to move on with the elephant in the room. Since he did T. Higgins dirty, T. Higgins tagged for the second year in a row, which means he can't be tagged a third time. So, this is it. This is it. Either they tag him, get something done, or he's probably going to go after next season.
Gone.
Obviously, T. Higgins could technically not sign the tag and, let it get a little messy. But I guess before we get into just T. Higgins itself, we only had two guys that were franchise tagged this year. Because the Vikings didn't tag Darnold, which the quarterback number, if you tag him, it's crazy.
Like
so I understand
40
that.
something.
Yeah, it's like 40. I think it was like 48 million or something. Like that's crazy. I can't remember what the wide receiver number is. I think is it like 20? It
was something like that. I have a picture of it on my phone. I saved it because I was reviewing it just because to see who's going to get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had T. Higgins and
Trey Smith.
Yeah, the Chiefs linemen that were tagged. But I guess to Anthony's comment here, did they do T. Higgins dirty?
And they did him dirty in a sense. It's because I feel like he and us as fans can see that he's being devalued. Now, getting the franchise tag is a good thing. That means they're designating you as a franchise player and don't want to lose you and are willing to pay the league average. For the top, because if people don't know what the franchise tag is, I believe it's the top 10 average per year salary. And they add them up, and basically that you get the average of the top 10 averages. So, I mean, there's basically saying, like, hey, we're averaging you out to be paid as a top 10 guy. But, man, the stability. I mean, you look at a guy like Jamar Chase, who also isn't close to getting an extension done from what I've heard as well, neither. So maybe it could just boil down to Cincinnati just is stingy, doesn't really know what they want to do, or having questions about things. But right now it seems like things on Cincy are whoever's running that front office isn't really handling things properly yet, or at least to the point they should.
Right.
Because I imagine T. Higgins is upset, and if you get to the point where Jamar Chase isn't close to an extension either, what are you going to do? And I feel like that's part of the reason they did extend T. Higgins is they franchise tag T. Higgins because don't know what's going to happen with Jamar Chase. You would just hate to lose T. Higgins for this season, and Jamar Chase be like, I want out after the next.
Yeah. So yeah, I
And then you're
completely
down.
agree. Yeah, I completely agree with Anthony's point here. It's like if you're a Bengals fan, you're looking at this team and you go, Joe Burrow, probably the greatest quarterback they've had franchise history. I mean, unless you're a Boomer Esiason fan, like I can see the argument, but we'll say Burrow. You got Jamar Chase, who you could arguably say is the best wide receiver in the league. You obviously have Justin Jefferson. And then you have T. Higgins, who,
Probably your best
as a
number 2
second wide
option.
receiver is a top performer. Yeah. So you're looking at this as you have Burrow under contract. Burrow has come out and said time and time again he wants his guys, Higgins and Chase, with him. They were in this situation last year. They could have signed Chase last year, chose not to. All Chase did was go out and get the Triple Crown. Is now going to cost more to sign him this year. They had Higgins last year. You could have signed Higgins. You didn't do that. He went on, had a good season on the tag when he wasn't happy on the tag last year. You put him on the tag again this year. I doubt he's going to be happy this year to be on the tag. And now we're still wondering, are they just going to lose all these guys? Because remember, they lost Joe Mixon before. But that was kind of the time where running backs were devalued. You were like, yeah, I wouldn't sign him either. He went down to Houston, had a pretty good season when he was healthy. So if they don't get Chase done this offseason, if I were a Bengals fan, like I would be seriously worried that come this time next year, you don't have Higgins, you don't have Chase, and you have a Burrow who may want out. And if all three of those things were to happen, you are right back to where you were kind of a laughing stock, like the Marvin Lewis era where, well, I mean, probably before that, because Marvin Lewis would have kind of make the playoffs, they would lose, but you go back to being irrelevant again.
Go back to being
like you're in a division where, Mike Tomlin finds a way to get the Steelers above 500 in the playoffs. You've got Baltimore that it seems the best in that division. And yes, Cleveland's a mess right now.
Cleveland knows they're a mess.
You a window. And Hendrickson needs to be signed.
Well, he asked for a trade, didn't he?
I believe he did, but it's just like it's starting to crumble around them. And it was already a franchise that was known as being cheap. Like at some point you have to make a stance and change the way that you've done things. Because the reason why Cincinnati hasn't won anything in a while, it's like they bring in talent and just watch the talent walk out the door when it's time to pay them. Yeah. You gotta pay somebody at some point.
If you notice with Cincinnati, a lot of their talent is homegrown. Like they're not going out and trading for a guy. Yeah. They're not going out and trading for this big name star. They're not going out and signing this big name guy in free agents. They're building up the talent they have. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, when Mixon was there, Trey Hendrickson. All of these guys are homegrown talent.
Jesse Bates. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just guys that they just they get them on that rookie deal. Then they're holding out their hand like, okay, let's get a new deal done. And Cincinnati's just like, yeah, you're too expensive. Yeah. So if they tag Higgins and can't get a long-term deal with Chase, they are just wasting everybody's time. I mean, Anthony said since he's just going to run it back like last year, like why? And that's a fair thing to ask. I mean, you would like to think since he's probably going to focus defense in their draft, like you would hope. But if you can't get Chase done and Higgins is on the tag, wide receivers now a need in the draft. Because now you have to think about like I said, a real reality where Chase and Higgins are no longer a Bengal after next year. And that's crazy to think about, but it seems like a real possibility now. And how does Burrow react to that?
Not happy.
Even though, I mean, yeah, like they gotta figure something out. Like they have to sign at least one of them this offseason. So I don't know. Cincy, it seems like they're ruining a good thing that they've had.
Very.
Uh, let's see what else made news. Like I said, Darnold is going to be a free agent. The Vikes didn't franchise tag him. Where do you see Darnold fitting? Like, is Darnold the top free agent quarterback in the class?
Sadly,
Like, you're dealing with Rodgers,
Justin
Darnold,
Fields, Russell,
I guess Russ, Fields, Kirk.
Kirk Wilson.
Yeah. So is Darnold the number one?
I mean, I guess if you have to just base it off of last year alone, yeah. I would say personally, Justin Fields probably should be your number one option. I feel like you can do a lot more with him. But we're talking about what we've seen, recency bias. Darnold played really, really good this year. Just, folded it at the time he needed it most, which I really think makes Minnesota's decision so much easier to just keep JJ McCarthy. I think they were like, okay, I think they were like really struggling, and they're like, dang, do we really have to pay Sam Darnold? Like, man, it's gonna be a rough decision if we just let him walk, especially after what he did. And then he just blows up, and it's like, oh, okay, never mind. We'll just go with JJ McCarthy. We'll save the $40 million in cap space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, I hope Darnold can prove it was more than a 1-year thing. I mean, I don't know anything about Darnold. He's with the Jets, had those terrible games against the Patriots, and then the narrative was the seeing ghost thing, so he could never stay there. And it seemed like he finally found a place in Minnesota where, he had a coach and a system that kind of fit him. So now it's almost like if he leaves Minnesota, can he find a situation that's even on a certain level close to what Minnesota has? Like, can you go somewhere and find, a wide receiver group that's like Jefferson, was Adelson, you had Hawkinson. Like, do you find a group like that? And you got what? Who's the tight end? Was it Aaron Jones at tight end? Yeah. So is he going to find anything close to that in free agency? And if not, would it not help him to maybe take a lesser deal if Minnesota comes with a certain deal in free agency to stay there and be kind of a contingency plan if JJ McCarthy's not necessarily ready to go coming off of his injury?
Nah.
Or does he just go out there and get paid, and wherever it is,
just
take that money and run?
That money and run.
Yeah.
Where?
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. Like, you got to make your money when you can.
It's like the Raiders could be interesting, especially having like the 6th pick. Because imagine if you go, sign Sam Darnold in free agency, have a little bit of money to spend outside of that. It's a deeper receiver class. Maybe take Ashton Jeanty or take Teratoro McMillan, the first overall pick at number 6. I don't know, man. Any team getting Sam Darnold, though, like, and that's kind of rough for Sam Darnold as well, too, because he's going to be wanting and expecting this much amount of money, but like any team who is going to get Sam Darnold needs to look at him and be like, hey, man, you see what you had in, Minnesota? That's because you made $1 million on a crap contract. We can't replicate that with you.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like not in any situation where like any team is set up for it. I see the Giants. That's literally like upgraded Daniel Jones situation. I feel like it would be to them. I feel like you're going to pay Saquon all this money. Daniel Jones, not Saquon, Sam Darnold, all this money. He's not going to be necessarily that good, and then Malik Neighbors is going to want to trade, and then you're back at square one. Brian Burns will leave at some point, and then you're back at one with Tommy DeVito throwing at the ball.
Yeah, look, the Giants have to do. Giants have to do something.
I'm sorry, if you're a Giants fan, you'd rather have Rodgers or draft a quarterback. You don't take the Sam Darnold route. You don't overpay someone. You either get a bridge or a rookie, or you wait. but you don't pay someone who you're going to be committed to for multiple years. Did you not just learn your lesson with Daniel Jones? I don't care if Samuel Darnold isn't Daniel Jones or they play differently. It's too risky of a situation.
Yeah, so you're saying like you would take Rodgers and like draft Sanders or something.
I would do one of the, I wouldn't do both in the same season. I would say if you're gonna go the Rodgers route and take a vet, you just take a vet and you get the best available player at 3. Either if that is, I don't care if Shedeur is there at 3. You don't take Shedeur. Travis Hunter's going to be there at 3. Travis Hunter will be there at 3. What is the seed outside, another offensive gadget that will sell things? A corner. A lockdown cornerback. The Giants do not have good corners. So getting another key defensive piece, maybe getting, Malik Neighbors. We've already talked about, what if Rodgers and Devontae Adams link up again? Get another good running back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Giants are the reasons we don't have Hard Knocks. Yes, it's Bill Belichick in North Carolina is running it now. Like, literally the whole debacle. Literally, the Giants GM's kids are smarter than him.
Yeah. It's oh man, that scene is gonna be the one that everybody remembers. Them just downgrading Barkley and being like, "Hey, go and find your own deal. Like we're good." And it's just like then you see the season that both had, and it's just like, what were you guys doing? But hey, mistakes are made. Theirs just happened to be with a camera in their face. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Max Crosby of the Raiders hopes Rodgers ends up in Vegas. If you're a Raiders fan, like you went through last season with Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder as your quarterback, it's just like,
you'll take anything.
Yeah, even with Rodgers having a bad season with the Jets, you would take Rodgers any day over those 3.
I'm just when Devontae Adams re-signed back over there.
That's. If you're Crosby and some of those guys, you're probably thinking like, if you sign Rodgers, then maybe that convinces Adams to, sign a new deal.
Man, if I'm Adams,
since it seems like
he likes, sorry, like I have to unhitch myself from this Aaron Rodgers wagon. Go to the Justin Herbert wagon.
Yeah, I agree.
Go to the Josh Allen wagon. Go to the Joe Burrow wagon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. He needs to go somewhere to just win. Because if you keep following Aaron Rodgers, like you're just leading yourselves into more drama and circuses that seems to follow Rodgers now.
Baltimore would be even such a perfect place for Devontae Adams.
Look, he would be the kind of profile receiver that would work with
you got
Lamar.
Zay Flowers getting ready to take off, have a more breakout years. Devontae Adams, someone there that is a crisp route runner, someone who can create really good separation himself. Kind of make Zay Flowers more of that slot guy, someone who can just be that deep ball threat that is really good at that. Creates more open opportunities for Mark Andrews, not having to be that, big kind of guy to catch all this stuff, kind of be that open space separation guy as well. Neither could work. Plus Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. I don't know. We haven't discussed MVP, I guess, since we spoke, but Lamar Jackson deserved that MVP. People can hate. Josh Allen didn't deserve that. So, but that's that.
I was one who was fine with Josh Allen getting it. Only because so my thing was before the season, everybody thought the Bills were just going to fall off. We're going to be a bad team. Right. But I feel like a lot of the experts were like, they lose Stephon Diggs. Watch, Josh Allen's going to take a step back. I thought Josh Allen took steps forward without Diggs. So I thought looking at that team, where they would have been if you took Josh Allen off of them, I thought he was the most valuable. Would I say he had a better season than Lamar? No. But I just think when you're thinking about valuable, I thought Josh Allen was more valuable. Because when you look at Lamar, what I think hurt Lamar's case were the games where they didn't use Derrick Henry. They lost those games. And then the narrative started turning into, well, if the Ravens want to win, you got to give Derrick Henry the ball 20 times a game. So then it almost made it seem like, so Derrick Henry's more valuable to their offense than Lamar is, because when they don't use Derrick Henry, they find ways to lose. And that's kind of what happened in the playoff game. Yes, Mark Andrews had, the drop 2-pointer and all this stuff. But you look at the stats again. Derrick Henry only had 16 carries in that game. So it's yet another game where Derrick Henry didn't get 20 carries and Baltimore couldn't win. So that's my only thing. Like, I'm not saying like Lamar had a terrible season or anything, but I thought in terms of valuable, I thought Josh Allen was more valuable to Buffalo than Lamar was to Baltimore. And I mean, for me, I argued like Barkley was more valuable because we saw the season he had for Philly.
MVP.
Right, but we know they won't give it to running backs.
So say the MVP position is a quarterback only position, but make offensive player of the year, skill positions only.
That's basically what the two awards have turned into. That if you're a running back or wide receiver, you're not going to get MVP, but offensive player of the year is like your MVP award. Yeah. And I'm fine with that. Like, until we start getting a situation where they're like giving MVP to a quarterback and then giving like offensive player of the year to another quarterback, I'm fine with it the way it is. Like, they usually just highlight the best skill position player for player of the year, offensive player of the year. I'm fine with that. Because we know how important quarterbacks are. So it's just going to be that way until the league kind of shifts to a different position.
Which it won't.
Right. Yeah. Unless you want to go back to like leather helmets where they just wanted like the wing tee and everything.
Call off 56 times to 4 running backs.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless we go back to that, then yeah, we're probably not going to get anything too different. Anthony says Coach of the Year was a joke. To be honest with you, I can't even remember who won Coach of the Year. Was it O'Connell?
It was O'Connell, I think.
Okay. So I guess Anthony. Now, I know Anthony's a Commanders fan. Were you hoping that Quinn was going to win that? I wouldn't have been mad if, O'Connell did win Coach of the Year. Okay. Yeah, Kevin O'Connell did. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn definitely made a good argument for that one.
Yeah, I mean,
let me see. How did the vote?
Yeah, that's tough because on one side you have a team who has this rookie quarterback, hadn't had the history of being a really strong franchise in the last couple of years. Go out with your rookie quarterback, do super great, make it to the NFC Championship. I really wish like awards like the coach of, and I get it's regular season stuff, but like Coach of the Year, that should really be wait till the end of the like playoffs. Not Super Bowl, but like the playoffs, man. Just because
we said so I guess probably like
Pro Bowl. Because like you got to see Minnesota blew up as where Washington shined in these moments, and it seemed like their coaching and things like that kind of carried.
I mean, I actually wouldn't hate that if they kind of included the playoffs to all these awards and waited for that week before Conference Championship Sunday and Super Bowl Sunday, Pro Bowl week, and did their honors then. That actually makes kind of some sense. I mean, I wonder if there's a change they'll ever make, but yeah. All right, so Anthony didn't like Coach of the Year. I guess any other awards you didn't like, Anthony?
I thought the awards were pretty decent. I was a big fan. I like Jared Verse winning his award. I'm happy with Pat his award. I thought
Verse had a really good year. Yeah.
But other than that, I thought everything was fine. Who won comeback player? I forgot about that.
Yeah. Nothing was too crazy. Like Burrow comeback player of the year. Barkley offensive player of the year. Patrick Surtain, defensive player of the year.
Comeback player of the year a lot of the time is someone coming back from injury, and it's like, yeah, I guess you're coming back, but it's just like I would prefer comeback player of the year being someone who had an absolute garbage season, and then the next season, I guess comeback, or they should have a breakout player of the year. I guess is a way to word one too. I'd like something like that because then you could give that to something like Sam Darnold. Like he should have definitely won that player of the year. Especially in comparison to how he was last year to this year, by far.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
It gives you an opportunity to put some names again.
I'm trying to see. Hall of Fame class: Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, Sterling Sharp. Ben Johnson won Assistant Coach of the Year.
He's someone that's probably going to be a really high Coach of the Year candidate next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, like I said, the NFL never takes any days off. Like, we will have plenty of content for the NFL in the coming weeks. Like I said, we will start getting into our mock drafts because we had a lot of fun with those last year. Trying to see, maybe we'll do our first one in a couple of weeks. And those of you who don't know or new to the channel or new to the show, we do them as we each take our team. So I will take the Patriots and run the draft for them. Dylan will do the Seahawks. Brett will do the Packers. And we'll just run through the mock draft and we'll operate it as if we were running things. And, obviously you guys in the chat can let us know how smart or dumb we are. But, we'll definitely get back into those probably in a couple of weeks. Like I said, Brett should be back next week. So, it's obviously good to have Dylan back. Been a while, but, like I said, this is your time right now.
I'm excited for it. All I've been doing is March.
Yeah. And we got March Madness coming up. Like,
I've been watching college basketball like crazy the last couple of weeks, getting into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been watching like a few teams, and I've seen like Duke. I've seen Houston, because Houston is always one of my teams every year that I'm like, I always like try to put them into the Final Four because I just like the way that they play. They play like real tough, gritty defense, and usually their biggest issue is they'll go up against a team that scores a lot, and that's not something that Houston like necessarily wants to do. Like Houston wants to beat you like 53-48. That's what they want. You start getting to 60, 70 points, they get a little – well, I mean, we'll talk March Madness a little bit more maybe next week or something. Because it's kind of crazy with it being March that the tournament is right around the corner. An opening weekend of March Madness, one of the best weekends of the sports
Election
calendar.
Sunday going into that Monday, Tuesday, where everyone so fun.
Yeah, it is. So we'll definitely get into that. So like I said, did have a trivia type thing to end the show because we are going to start bringing those back. I wanted to try this one to see how this does. First, I've got to see if you'll be able to see this.
Okay.
So we'll share that. That looks like it's probably really small for you, so hold on. I guess tell me when you can see it a little better.
What do you mean? Hold on.
I don't want to make it too big, then the ads start taking over the screen.
Okay, so it looks like Boston, Minnesota. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so I feel like this is a little rough. We can try this.
All right, so we'll give this a shot. I mean, those of you in the chat as well, if you want to throw out answers, please feel free to. So obviously we know the home team, Minnesota. This one's usually a gimme because you can see this is Minnesota's court. And then visiting teams, obviously, the Celtics. Okay, got that. Next round. Now it's what year was this game? So obviously the big keys would be looking for some of the players. Like the Celtics players you've seen. It's like Hauser, there's Holiday, there's Horford, White, Tatum. But Boston's kind of been the same for the past couple of years. Minnesota, that's Conley, and I feel like that's Randall in like the pink shoes. Maybe. Because they kind of make it so that you can't obviously see everybody because it might give away too much, but...
Turn on my camera so I can actually pick up my phone and look at it a little more.
Okay, that's fine. Because we have to guess a year.
Mm-hmm. So it at least have to be. We got to think of Conley's timeline. So Conley's on what? The Jazz now?
No, I think he's still in Minnesota.
Okay, I don't know when Mike Conley got on Minnesota.
Yeah.
Have to be anywhere between, at least we can narrow down the years to like 2020, probably 2 to 2023 to now.
Right. Something tells me this might be like last
Part
year.
of me thinks that. I don't know. When I first initially saw those Minnesota uniforms, I thought they were like older ones.
Well, that's true. So Anthony has some somewhat breaking news. According to reports, the starting offer for Brock Purdy, $45 million a year. I mean, I think Purdy deserves to be paid. $45 million seems like a lot. I mean, if he gets that, like there's gonna be some documentary on him going from Mr. Irrelevant to $45 million a year.
He's probably gonna get it too.
Yeah. I'm willing to try 2023.
I was thinking 3 as well too. That's the one I was kind of pushing towards.
Let's see. No. So it says it's more recent. So it's either 2024 or this year. Oh, wait. If I said that was Randall, I wouldn't have guessed 2023 because Randall just got there. Also, I'm not even sure if that's Randall, though.
Could be. It's hard to see. I wasn't sure if it was McDaniels or Reed.
Yeah, they like to make it just fuzzy enough where you don't just read everything off of it. So it's either 2024 or 2025.
I would go just 24.
Yeah.
It's 2025.
It was okay. It's January 2nd. Jeez. Okay. Well, I guess that is Randall then. All right. Game type. Well, I'm going to assume this is a regular season game because it wouldn't be the playoffs because we just heard it was January. So now that we know it's this year, coaches, obviously, you got Missoula for the Celtics.
Oh, did you put that in the visitor slot? Okay, I wasn't sure. I realized that now. I said home and visitor. I was like, oh, you just can't type coaches.
And then the Wolves coach.
Finch? I was going to say Finch, but I don't know why that sounded wrong.
Okay. This is the part where it gets interesting. So now they want you to name players from each team that played in this game. So it looks like each team went 9 guys deep. And I guess you're wanting to get at least 10 of them to move on.
Okay, 10.
I could probably knock out the Celtics ones.
Yeah.
So if they went 9, like you're looking at, obviously, Tatum, Horford, Pritchard, Brown. I mean, might get all 9. I don't know. Okay, so Brown missed this game. Okay. It's good to know. There's no penalties for missing anybody, but yeah. Derek White. Okay, so now let's see. Holiday. Okay, so that's 5. Let's see who else will they have played. You're looking at so back in January.
Very recent too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else is coming off the bench. Kind of probably Kada. Okay. 6. Who would be the other 3?
Our dude from
Sam Hauser.
Jordan Walsh, right?
See, I was thinking of Jordan Walsh played. Wait, where is Sam? Oh, is it? Yeah. Hauser. Yeah, because there was a period where Jordan Walsh was getting minutes. Okay. So I got one more.
Oh, who's I can't think of his name. Who's that dude who wears number 88 for you guys?
Oh, that was Keita.
Is he not on there?
I think Keita wears 88. Was Porzingis? No, Porzingis was out that game. Okay.
Luke Cornett?
Oh, yeah, Luke. How can I forget what Luke? Okay, so that's all Celtics players. Minnesota now. So we know Ant.
We know Conley.
Hold on. Okay. Conley. Gobert.
Randall.
Who'd you say? Randall. Yeah.
McDaniels.
I might get all of them. Let's see. McDaniels.
Jaden.
Okay. I always get which McDaniels. Okay, it's Jaden. I always want to say it's Jalen McDaniels.
Nas Reed.
Guess we got 5. Is that their starting 5?
I mean, Nas Reed will be one of the options too.
Mm-hmm. Nas Reed.
Dante DiVincenzo.
Okay. Okay. 2 more.
2 more. This has to be like random backup people getting like 10, 15 minutes. This literally has to what it be.
Right, because normally when I do this, the bench guys I'm completely out on, only because of the Celtics, I knew them. And I feel like we've named the bigger name Minnesota players. So now it's like, who would be the 2 other ones?
Oh, Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
See, I was just about to ask if he was there.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I would try it. I mean, it's worth it.
Oh, said
really?
No. Hold on, let me double check. Maybe it's because sometimes it's a little select.
Oh,
there we go. One more.
Who's on Minnesota? I would get crappy bench.
Because they don't have slow-mo anymore. Because he would have been a good guess. Oh, man. Like sometimes the picture gives something away. I feel like we've named all of these guys already. Same group. Yeah, I don't think there's any other clues to the pictures. I mean, 17 out of 18 isn't bad. So, got Ant, Conley, Gobert, Randall, Daniels, Reed, DiVincenzo, Walker. It seems like it'd be like another big man, maybe.
I'm trying to think of who they've drafted.
Do they have Garza?
No, I don't think I think he's in the G League.
Okay.
Man, try Josh Minot. That's a weird name, but I'm pretty sure if this is the Celtics game, I think he is. He had like a big dunk in this game. Like I think it's Minott. I don't know. I could be wrong though. I know he plays on Minnesota. Okay.
It is Josh Minott.
I know he plays on Minnesota. I think he was like a 2nd round pick by them, but I wasn't sure if he would have played that game. He's on the roster. He just never plays.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we got all 18.
I think he also signed like a weird rookie deal where he was like a 2nd round pick and signed like a 4-year, like $6 million contract.
Hey. So now the last question: who scored the last points of the game?
That's kind of funny. Who scored the points?
I mean, they're showing Tatum taking a shot with 6.6 seconds left.
It's a matter of who won the game now. What's the score? Does that say? That says 118, 115?
Yeah, with 6 seconds left. But I mean, there's a good chance, maybe Tatum missed this. They get a 3.
Or like, yeah,
and this game went
someone
to
like
overtime.
chucked the ball. So hard. So so can we at least process? Because my guess is what it would be is, now we don't know the final score. We don't know if there was free throws or anything.
Right.
But if, let's say, hypothetically 118, 115 is the final score. If the Celtics miss this shot, it's 100% a Timberwolves player taking a chuck. Not a chuck, but at least a setup three.
Right. Well, like you said, let's just say this was the final score. We'd have to determine who scored last, whether it was Minnesota or Boston. Like for Boston, I would think like maybe White or Tatum.
Oh, that is tough.
Hey, what's going on, Damien? Damien in the chat said he would guess Ant, which, if Minnesota was the last to score, I would think Ant as well. I think this one you get one shot at it.
Ooh,
so where are you leaning with this one?
So we're talking about the last shot, right? Who scored last?
Who scored the last points of the game?
Oh, man.
I mean, Ant doesn't seem like a bad guess.
Oh, what if it's like something like bad though? Like let's say like the Celtics were up a good amount and like someone hit like a free throw or something while like it was like low time. Like, because like hypothetically speaking, like let's say Tatum misses this shot. It's 118, 115. Nobody scores after that. So it could have been before this shot.
Then we got to think about who scored before this shot was taken. Like, did Minnesota score on their trip up the floor, or did they not score? And Celtics scored their last trip before this trip. Like, it's, yeah.
It could also be something where Minnesota was coming back. Boston could have had 1-8 for a second.
Yeah.
Minnesota was trying to come back. I'm leaning towards it's a Minnesota player. I'm going to say it's a Minnesota player. I'm leaning towards.
Okay. So do you want to go Ant?
I feel like that's too obvious.
True. Like I could look if we're thinking of Minnesota players, I could see like Ant or Conley maybe.
I'm thinking guards too. I'm thinking either it's Ant, Conley, or DiVincenzo. It's one of the three guards I think took it.
Yeah.
Because you would have tried to get it into their hand at least to go to the line for free throws or a quick possession, something. Because let's say if it was something like free throws or something along the lines of that, if the Celtics miss after you hit the free throws, you have possession again. So.
Yeah. Okay. So who do we want to try?
Sucks we only get one shot.
Because I kind of agree with you. Ant would be like the obvious answer.
What, do we just do a toss-up between Conley and DiVincenzo?
Yeah. I might lean Conley.
We can do Conley. I'm fine with that.
All right, let's see.
Oh.
It was not Conley. Okay. Oh, I guess they do give you more than one chance. Okay. I thought they only gave you one.
What was our other option? Oh, okay, it was.
It was DiVincenzo. Okay. Hey, we did better than 87%. Like, we'll take that.
I really enjoyed that. That was tough. We got all the players, though, which I think was really impressive.
Right. I mean, hey, we'll take that. The only thing we missed was the year we were a year off, and we got the last shot on the second choice. So 87%. I'm fine with
That's
it.
good. That's good.
All right, let me take that off. Here we go. All right. Yeah, so like I said, with kind of the NFL and all that being done, we will do some more fun stuff like that. I don't know. We might bring that one back again next week because I know that'll probably be like in Brett's wheelhouse as well with his NBA knowledge. But we'll probably do some, immaculate grid, some quizzes type stuff, trivia. Like we'll kind of end it a little differently every so often. So, yeah. So hopefully you guys appreciate that as our way to end the show. That's all I got for you. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Dylan, you have anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Not anything necessarily. I mean, free agency doesn't start till the 10th. Selection Sunday will be the 16th. Conference tournament, champion conference tournaments are coming up though. So if you're big in college basketball, it's about to be a fun, exciting time. Everything's about to kick off. Everything's about to get super competitive. They say March is mad. It's very true. It's kicking off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually with like the conference tournaments, that's where I kind of get like really into it, just because I don't know, maybe I put too much stock in conference tournaments, but I feel like that's where you'll see kind of a good representation because a conference tournament gives you that tournament feel, and you'll see which teams can kind of step up. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have fun with March Madness. I'm sure we'll probably do brackets and maybe see who out of the three of us can have the best bracket. I don't know. We'll maybe open it up to, you guys who do tune in. If you guys want to fill out a bracket as well, let's see if, one of you could beat one of us, something I'm thinking about. So I'll definitely have, if we do one, I'll probably set it up at least for next week and then give you guys a chance to join if you want and fill out a bracket. Because I know I'm going to do a bracket. I know you will, and I know Brett will do brackets as well. So feel free to submit one, and maybe you do better than us. But yeah, so, make sure you guys come back next week. Like I said, should have a full group up here. It is good to have you back, Dylan. Always fun to talk to you with the NFL, NBA, and all that, in college as well. So make sure you guys give us a like, follow, subscribe to Integrity Sports Network. So that way you can check out all the other shows here. Those of you on TikTok, appreciate all of you. Make sure you, tap the screen over there, give it a like. Yeah. So until next week, where we'll probably have more free agency news, more NBA stuff going on. We'll be another week closer to playoffs. So we'll see if there's any movement amongst these teams, any other big news happens. We'll definitely be here to talk about it. So make sure you guys come back next Tuesday, 7 o'clock for On the Ball podcast for myself and Dylan. We'll let you enjoy the rest of your night, the rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. All right. Oh, James.